Good day, everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're here with Megan, and we just want to give you all a story about her life and her language journey so far. So we're here in University of the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. It's very nice, being out here with the scenery as well, all this lovely
Nice
stuff.
and breezy.
You know,
Bring back memories.
different to the online setting, but we just want to put a physical presence to it and just hear about her story again and to really understand who she is, and I'm your host Tariq, and we just want to dive deep into it. So we're here with Megan.
Yes.
Correct?
Nurse. Enfermera.
Alright. We know that you have been studying languages for a long time now, and we want to know what are the benefits do you think about going into the language industry, especially when it comes to your current job as a receptionist. How do you think it has served you in this month?
Well, for me, languages has opened up a new world. I know it sounds kind of cliche.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, languages opens up the world to you. But it really does, because although I've always wanted to study in France, like I love French from the get-go. As soon as I started learning French in Form 1, that was like it. And I actually like French more than Spanish, but don't tell that to my colleagues. But I was always looking to see if I could study in France, but the finances were, always the issue. And then when I came to UE and, found out about the programs, the ESATEX program to go to Colombia, and then the French teaching assistant program, I was like, yes. Yeah. And it was, well, back in those days, I was very much like, oh, I love the travel lifestyle and all that. So I was really interested in, of course, traveling to as many places as I could. And the first time I went, which was back in 2009, 2010, I was assigned to a little small town called Bourg-en-Bresse near Toulouse. And yeah, I had it good in that I didn't have to pay for accommodation at that point in time. So I traveled to like Italy and Switzerland and Amsterdam, and I traveled a good few places when we had our holidays. So that was it for me. I was like, traveling is the best thing in the world. And you really appreciate being Trini. You appreciate your culture.
Lots of diverse areas as well.
I think every single Trinidadian, if it is at all possible, that if they could go travel abroad for a little bit, even if it's just for a vacation, because you would come back with, you always come back with a different perspective and a more appreciative, outlook on Trinidad and Trinidad culture. So for me, it has been a blessing, and of course it's opened up my career prospects as well. I mean, not that I was necessarily looking to work in the embassy, but a friend of mine told me I was working for an educational institution, and she was like, try it for this. I see a Panama have this post open. I was like, all right, okay, let me see. And I got through. So the main thing for me was having my Spanish language skills. So if I didn't have that, if what I have gone through, who knows? God has his ways, but it's definitely a requirement. So in my opinion, people should, I think everybody should at least do one language. Even in Spanish, because of course Spanish is more popular, Latin America being right surrounding us basically. But for me, any language is a plus. And when you go across Europe and you see like people from Germany and so on, they're like, oh yeah, I can speak 5 languages. Like, wow, and that's nothing special to them, but it really does allow mobility and greater prospects, not only job-wise, but just in terms of learning about culture and just for your edification, your personal development and stuff,
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to traveling, because you were speaking about France and going to different areas, Italy as well, and you travel to Colombia, I believe as well,
Yes.
right? So all these different
Yeah.
languages, romance, and stuff like that. But how easy was it to really to adapt to all these changes with the language, different culture and people? Because I'm sure it was different to the Trinidad or Caribbean atmosphere. So what was that process of changing from here to going abroad?
Well, let me see. Let me think back to Colombia. Colombia was I actually went twice. Once in a student exchange for 6 weeks, and then that was to Cali, and then afterwards I went to a town close to Bogota, not Bogota. It was like about 2.5 hours away from Bogota.
Capital of Colombia, here and all there.
Yeah.
Serious places you can go to.
And would I say it was difficult? I think the difficulties were more like the administrative stuff. Like when you reach there, okay, so you have to stay by somebody until you get a place to live, and then it's like you're trying to get, a place to rent, and just working out those things. And even when I went to France as well, the administrative stuff was the most like nerve-wracking part of it. The second time I went to France, actually, I didn't get accommodation free, so I had to find my own, and that was a bit stressful. But I think in that sense, that was like the difficulty about it. I enjoyed just like tasting everything that was different from us, and especially food. I love my belly. So that for me was good, was enjoyable.
What are some of the foods that just let the persons know who not really travel abroad and not familiar with
actually just the other day, I was like, dang, I'm feeling for some ajiaco, and that's a Colombian soup, like a Colombian very, very popular dish.
We will put it right there for you all to know what it is. Ajiaco.
They have like the little spices in a pack that they sell in the shops, and you make the soup. That was one of my favorite things, and of course the coffee. Everybody likes to hate on the Nescafe. So Juan Valdez, gosh, everything, just every and anything. I remember I really like my belly. So there was always there was a bakery that I always used to go to, like right down the road from where I was, and they had the best coffee like ever. I just learning about what's the name for different things. Like they used to call the little coffees like that a tinto, and no sugar. Well, you can have sugar if you want, but usually they would drink it no sugar, no milk. And then they had a slightly bigger one with the regular milk, and as we know it, and they used to call that a perico. And I always used to take the perico, and what they had again, I think it was something panela, agua panela, something like that, which was okay. But generally, I like my belly in those places, and my cheeses and the French bread and croissants, and that was nice.
well, I'm sure some of the students that you would have taught in those places kind of help you learn about the culture and about what really goes on in those places and the differences with Trinidad and culture. But how was your experience teaching over there? Well, English, and you had to be speaking a foreign language constantly. What was that process, and did you think it was easier going into it than how it turned out?
I would say that it was difficult. The process of teaching was difficult in the sense that children are children no matter where they are. So I taught, for example, the last place I went, which was Spain actually, in a small town called Villa Garcia de Arauza in Galicia. So there, for example, I had smaller children. In France, I had bigger ones like 13, 14, somewhere around that age. But little children are fidgety and they want to. So in terms of like the discipline, that one was a little bit more challenging because of the ages of the students. But at the same time, they were so sweet, they're so nice, and like and they, like, for example, they used to give me little presents, like a bookmark or something that you make in class or whatever. So I don't know, maybe those little things made me kind of forget the miserableness of some of them. But it was a little difficult at times to come up with something fresh and new and kind of fun, because of course, it's just, to me, is more about the way in which you present the information to help them remember and practice, because you would teach the same thing over and over and over and over again, but the difficulty is trying to keep it fresh and like thinking, okay, well, what will appeal to a 7-year-old as opposed to a 15-year-old, but I don't know, I think because of my love for languages, not to say that I wouldn't say that there weren't any difficult moments, but for me it was easier because you kind of go into the country accepting that, hey, not everything is going to be like it is in Trinidad, so don't expect people to understand where you're coming from, not necessarily, or don't, like, to me it wouldn't make any sense to make a comment like, oh, well, why this not so, because it's not your country. So I come in, wherever I go in with that kind of mindset, like, okay, just prepare myself for a new experience and we'll just see what comes. And I guess at the end of the day, that's a good perspective to adopt, to have, a good outlook on life to have, just to be open. I really, to me, I don't understand how people could stay in the country for their whole life and never travel anywhere, but no judgment, sorry.
Honest. Okay, so traveling across the globe and you're understanding different nations and customs as well. So when you was learning languages, how did that help you with your current job in the embassy? So what principles kind of stuck with you and to really understand them and then make it useful for your current job as a receptionist?
That's a good question. So I would say, I guess, just being patient with people, I suppose, because of course when you're speaking, I don't speak the best Spanish. I wouldn't call myself a native speaker. Everybody loves to.
You sound natural to me. Like, when I speak in Spanish.
I wouldn't say I'm a native speaker level, but of course there are misinterpretations, and there's certain times that you have to ask for clarification because you really don't understand what the person means. And I guess you learn to have patience with yourself and patience with others as well. And I would say just learning to accept that to not put too much pressure on yourself, or think of yourself as any less because you might not know exactly how to say something, or sometimes, personally for me, sometimes I used to be like, oh gosh, down on myself, like, like I can't talk Spanish properly, and be like beating myself down. And it's like, no man, you're doing your best, and you have just interacting with them makes me realize, okay, I need to have more patience with my own self. So in addition to having patience with them, when they're trying to also speak in English to you, I'm always like, like encouraging, like, saying it right, like kind of like. So I like to encourage my colleagues, because I have 2 colleagues that don't speak English so well, so I speak more Spanish to them, and then I have another one who's like totally bilingual. He is disgusting. He knows French and Spanish like back of his hand. He's all good. So I have no problems with him. The only problem, I guess, I would say I have with him is I speak in English too much with him. Yeah. But I would say, just learning to not be as hard on myself and patient with myself and with others. And generally as well, I think just understanding that people, sometimes they might do something that you don't really understand, or you might be like, but sometimes it comes from the way that they grew up, or their culture, and that's okay. So you have to expect that maybe sometimes things like that will happen. Incidents will happen where you don't understand why the person did this or why they said something like that. But you don't react right away and be like, well, who you think you are, kind of way, When you reflect on it, you realize, oh, okay, it was because of this. So I think just in terms of, interaction with my coworkers and stuff,
more patience.
I definitely take that from my experience in going abroad and learning languages.
So was it the same thing for you, meaning when you was talking to persons who are Spanish speaking, let's say Panamanians, Venezuelans, and when you hear them, you have to more understand, okay, they are not native English speakers, so I will try to hear them more and try to have more empathy, you could say, to them. Is it the same dynamic when it comes to actually writing paragraphs or letters for them? So do you see those same issues when it comes to them writing in English, or is it just like an oral thing where people are feeling comfortable to do it?
Well, I don't have to, in terms of writing, I don't have to interact with the public as much. It's more on the side of like, if I write in Spanish, it's to write like a note to ministry officials in Panama. So in that sense, I always I always defer to my colleague, the same one who's like totally bilingual, to help me just to look over my Spanish, So I suppose I can't really speak too much to the everyday man on the streets, because there's a particular context in which I write. Majority of the things I do, like in Spanish, in terms of writing, would be to the ministry in Panama, or doing some sort of non-official translation of a document that they would send, and I translate it to English, or vice versa. Our ministry sends a document in English, I have to translate it to Spanish and send it to them. So it's very much structured, and I don't have any issues in the sense that I always have somebody I could check.
Understand. Okay.
I do remember though, there was the first time I went to France, there was a Russian girl, and we always found that she was so rude because she never said s'il vous plaît or merci or nothing like that, and I was like, what's this girl for? Because it was a group of us assistants from different countries, one from Italy, next one from Bolivia, the next one from Argentina, and she was in a group, and she was kind of more to herself. But then I was watching something on TV like years later, and they said that Russian people are very I don't know if blunt is the word, but they consider it as they're doing you a favor if they tell you something. Like the situation was like somebody, I think it was an American guy and a Russian girl, and the guy was cooking for his mother-in-law, or maybe vice versa. But anyway, the soup apparently didn't have enough salt, and the mother was like, this doesn't have enough salt, it's not tasting good,
Okay.
And some people might consider that like rude. I could tell people smile and eat it and say, oh, lovely, I'm nice, perfect, But they are not like that. So Americans are like that, and British people especially, they're overly polite. But it just kind of helped me. When I thought about it, I was like, okay, well, maybe that could be part of the reason. Well, we still was like, this guy have no manners. But we didn't tell
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
We kept it to
Kept it
ourselves.
to yourself a little bit. Yeah.
You know, but it's cool to like think about things like that and realize, okay, well, really and truly, you can't expect people, especially when they're from a different country, to act exactly like you do, or you know, think exactly
Yeah.
the same way you do. And I think that's very important.
Mm.
You know?
Okay, that's very, very impactful, really and truly, you know, to just hear her cultural traveling, going to different places, countries, etc., and teaching as well, not just being there for a little vacation, but to actually give back to other students and other persons in those nations, you know.
Yeah.
So, Megan, it was a pleasure
It was a
speaking
pleasure
to you today.
to meet too, Tariq.
Thank you very
Tariq,
much.
sorry,
And
I said
thank you, Tariq.
Sorry.
And we just hope the viewers, everyone watching, YouTube, Instagram, any other platform, you know, we hope you all gain some information here today to just get more value from a language translation perspective and to hear her experience once again. And
Two
before-
languages.
That's correct. 2 languages, French and Spanish,
Yes.
and any other ones that you like. And before we go today, we have one question for you.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready?
I hope so.
Simple question.
All right.
For the next guest that we're gonna have on the channel, do you have any question for them? It could be on any topic, random topic, not just specific language translation, but
Oof.
anything.
Aye.
It could be educational, motivational, anything.
A question for the next person. Oh God, I guess maybe like the cliche question. How has learning a language like enriched your life, or you know, added to your understanding of life?
How has language
That's kind of cliche, but
Enrich your perspective.
that's the
of
best
life?
I could think of right now.
That's a very good. No, that's a very good question. So, next person watching this, you'll have that question from Meganus,
All right.
and we thank you all once again.
Sorry, I was
for
put on the
coming
spot.
Next guest, that will happen to you. So, you're not taking any offense. Thank you all, and hope you all have a good day. Take care.
Bye.